You feel that? That nip in the air. The sniffles are starting. Winter is definitely on the way, folks. At this time of the year, I don't muck around. I fire up with Nature Bee's Power Pollen. It is packed with vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, everything your body's screaming out for when that temperature drops. It's helped me stay sharp, healthy, and it helps me fight off that sluggish winter slump. It has been doing that for 20 years. And right now, you can grab a 6-month supply of Nature Bee's Power Pollen for $160. Plus, they're throwing in a bonus month and 2 bars of that famous pollen and honey soap. So before winter knocks on your door, click on the link in the description and get your supply of Power Pollen Nature Bee. Money back guarantee. Big thanks to Nature Bee for powering another episode of Bonafide. Righto, before we get stuck into today's yarn, let me ask you this. Ever been lying in bed late at night and you hear that dreaded skitter-scatter in the walls? You know it's rats or mice having a party. And you're not invited. Well, that's where Pestrol comes in. Their new rodent-free Max is the non-fuss, plug it in and forget it kind of solution. No poisons, no traps, just solid Aussie tech that keeps pests out of your home. Trusted for over 20 years, Pestrol's got your back. Buy the Pestrol rodent-free Max today and also receive the in-car rodent repeller absolutely free. Valued at $50, free of charge. It's a limited time offer, but you must use the code word BONA, B-O-N-A.
Got your diesel running, head out on the highway, missing all the roadkill. Another Truckie Tuesday. In the gate when you're changing from lanes, do not brake check me in my prime.
Time for Truckie Tuesday, and the road warrior Rocket Rod Hannafy joins us again from his palatial king-size bed in Dubbo. What are you doing in bed? You're never in bed. G'day.
That's true. G'day, Bonafiders, and to you, to the team at the top.
The team at the top. How's your week been?
It's been a very frustrating trucking week.
All right, take us through it. What's happened?
Well, I was due to get the truck back, so we know it went in for surgery. Got a new block, and it was due to be done Monday. So I'd had 3 weeks away, 2 weeks in another truck, and a week away in Townsville, as we discussed. So they said, it'll be ready Monday morning, then it was Monday afternoon, then we didn't have anybody going that way. Then I had an option of picking it up at midnight or 4 o'clock, and I said, bugger me, how about midnight? Then I got over there early, finally got there at midnight to pick it up, turned the truck on, it started, turned the lights on, they all went off.
Oh.
Bugger. Bugger, words to that effect.
Bugger.
So making phone calls, dragging people out to fix it. They'd squashed a wire in the bull bar, which I had suggested they should keep an eye on. Got the truck home in the early morning, had a few hours sleep, got up in the morning, truck wouldn't start.
Oh, no.
Batteries were flat. Oh, mate, it gets worse. So drag it out to work, get batteries in it, head off. Got another driver with me to go and pick up one of our other trucks, driver being Crook. We head off, made it 5K out of Dubbo. Truck shut down. So we thought, geez, maybe when they put the new batteries in, and it's a fairly complicated process. It's not just like a car, Luke. It's got wires, and there is 4 batteries, and they're in a box, and it's a fairly complicated process. Oh, mate said, it won't take me 2 hours, and it took him 2.5 to 3. So we're running late, we're out, we're broken down, came out, thought we found the problem, fixed it, drove down the road, broke down again.
Yeah.
Another mechanic came out. By this time, we've rang the people where I'm going to load, said, look, got a problem, going to be late. Anyway, he came out, fixed it, thought we had it fixed, finally got to the loading point, and he says, there's 6 or 7 in front of you now. You might not get loaded till 3 in the morning. Bugger. So go to bed. Of course, about 30 seconds after I got to sleep, the phone rang. Come on, get down here and get loaded down. And I had a time slot I was supposed to be in Melbourne. That had gone out the window. I did make a big effort. I drove through till about 5:30 in the morning. And I thought, well, I'm not going to make it. I'm going to run out of hours. I'm going to bed. Went to bed. The Melbourne depot didn't know what had happened during the night. The Dubbo depot did. So, of course, they rang me to find out where I was and what I was doing and woke me up. Then got to the change the delivery point again, thought the problem was fixed, took off down the road, truck shut down again.
Oh.
And I mean, driving along, the accelerator would just disappear. There would be a light on the dash, and within about probably 15 or 20 seconds, the engine would shut down. So I've had trouble before with fuel. In the past, I had a road train on, going up a hill, it would lose power, it would miss and spit and fart. And as soon as I spoke to someone, they said, the fuel filter, we'll check that, because I just had a service done and I hadn't put the seal back on properly. But this time it was not really, the first time wasn't under load, so it didn't indicate that. We thought we'd had an electrical problem because the batteries had been done. And finally, the bloke came out from a related business to the one that had done all the repairs, and he said they didn't put the filter on properly and it was virtually sucking air, but so slight you couldn't see it. Normally I've had the filter on and they forgot to put an O-ring on and it leaks fuel, so you know there's a problem. You can pick that up really easily. And, mate, they fixed it and got me going. But, of course, I lost half a week's wages. The company lost the truck. We missed 2 time slots. It's funny, I was coming out of Melbourne night before last and I'd been on the phone to a mate. Another mate went the other way and called me up and he said, how you going? So, bugger of a week, blah, 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 and give me a quick rundown. And virtually as the first phone call finished, the second bloke rang and he said, you didn't sound quite so chipper as normal. And I said, no. I said, look, and one of the blokes in Melbourne had said, he said, it was my truck and it broke down on me 3 times. I would have set fire to it. I said, well, I was certainly getting pretty frustrated, pretty disappointed. And again, it's been off for 3 weeks. It's had major surgery. It's come back supposedly all good to go. And that's taken the gloss off it. But I've got to say, Luke, I was at that DC unloading in Melbourne and the forky said, looking at the back of the trailers while I was there, he said, you Rod? And I said, which one? He said, the Rod on the radio. He said, those employers of Luke, he said, they should go and make children. So can you infer
yes, I know.
what I meant he said?
Yes, I do.
Yep. And he didn't listen to a lot of Truckie Tuesday, but he used to listen to your show as he finished off heading into work early in the morning, and he was pretty disappointed. I did have another bloke who wasn't aware of the podcast, so I've educated him. And another bloke who said, g'day, Rod, how's it going, blah, 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 and said he was enjoying reading about me, and I thought he must have been a radio man, but he wasn't. He was reading the column in Owner Driver and listening to something else. So, look, a couple of nice little things. I have heard back from One Road Authority. I did ring Vic Roads and put in a suggestion about a left turn arrow near our depot in Melbourne, and they rang back and said, we've looked into that, and you'll be asking for extra time. We can't do it. And I said, well, no, I'm not, and I want you to reassess that again. So we have another go getting that one fixed. And I have got an email from Transport for New South Wales who are giving a bit of promotion and doing some more work on the green reflectors. So a couple of little positives. But, yes, during the week it just got a little disheartening.
Okay, now we've got a bit to get through, but I just want to stay with you on this topic. And I bet Kelsey's probably thinking the same thing. This truck that kept breaking down, it's not yours, it's your boss's, correct?
Yes.
Okay, you've done everything you can to earn your wage, and it's not your fault that you lost half your wages. Do truck drivers get compensated when it's their machinery that breaks down? Now, if you're an owner driver, you cop the lot, and that's one of the risks you have when you're an owner driver. But if you do drive for a boss and they provide you with a truck that cannot perform its task and there's absolutely no fault of the driver, what happens there?
Mate, it depends on the situation. Now, of course, it wasn't work's fault either. It was the third party, and I did actually say you should send them the bill. Of course, they will turn around and say, no, all care, no guarantees.
All care, no responsibility.
No responsibility, that's the one I was after. I did list all of my breakdowns on my worksheet, and I said to my boss, well, here's what's happened for the week. Of course, they've lost out even more. They've lost the truck for half of the week. So whether they go and talk to those people and say, well, you're responsible, good luck with that. So, look, they'll meet me somewhere in the middle. Lucky I've got an arrangement. I've got a few holidays up. I'll probably top up a little bit out of that, and they'll top up a little bit as well. But it does depend on the arrangement you have with your employer. Again, I was in the truck the whole week, so I still get my living away from home allowance, even though it wasn't quite as enjoyable a week as normal. And it depends on who you can blame. If there's a customer that messes us around, we get held over and they can charge demurrage. And I suppose, Luke, I'm avoiding what you asked, but one of the biggest issues that we have, and the driver that rang me the second time had been to a site and sat there for 6 hours because they let another truck go in front for him to load in 27 minutes.
Yeah.
And demurrage is one of the biggest things in the industry. Now, a breakdown doesn't happen all that often, and you take the good with the bad, and I'll meet them in the middle, same as I hope they'll do with me. But if you go to places and they say, you be here at 3 o'clock, and, of course, at 6 o'clock you're still there, and they say be there in the morning, and you say, well, mate, are you going to pay me for the time I've sat here? Mm-hmm. They did try and bring it in the States. They tried to bring in a law that if you sat at a site for more than an hour and you'd been compliant, done everything you should have done, that they would have to pay, and that would make an enormous difference because that lost time you can't get back.
No.
You then sometimes asked, oh, you'll still be there in the morning. No. What do you mean no? Well, you've sat me here for 6 hours. Oh, that's not my problem, mate. You've got to be there. And, of course, if you don't, well, you're going to lose the contract. We're not going to pay you. All those things come up, and that puts more pressure on the driver. And as I say, they tried to bring it in America, but those that have so much power over the transport task, over the logistics industry, got it quashed. And it's something that we've spoken about the closing the loopholes bill. They've got 30-day payment terms in that. There are some other things being there, and I'm hoping that demurrage thing is one of those that's going to be addressed in the near future.
Geez, yet another reason not to become a truckie. It must be.
Look, it is. You had that young bloke on last time, and he's been at it 4 years, and of course we had our mate send the poem in, and I've had a listen to that, and there's some heartfelt bloody passion in there. And I did, mate, thank you, speak to Mr. Cornell. I've sent him a message trying to come up with something there.
Oh, good.
Yes, we'll see how that goes. And I must say, I was listening to Mr. Tarvey's 100 Top Tips, and he was saying that he was so poor when he was a kid, they had to go to KFC to lick other people's fingers. And I'd never heard that before, so that was probably the best laugh of the week.
See, we deliver here. We deliver here on Bonafide. If you own your own prime mover, you're responsible for all of that, aren't you? What are the pros and cons of being an owner-driver or working for a boss?
It's funny that you should say that. Was reading during the week, there was a survey released that study taken a few years ago. I think they were saying that it was 60-something% of people at that time were small businessmen, owned their own truck. Now, again, I've only read this once and I haven't gone and verified it yet, but they're saying that percentage has dropped substantially, that more people are working for bosses. It's partly, in the old days, you bought a truck and you worked for all different companies. You might do a load for Brambles one day and Manix the next and somebody else. Sometimes you were a painted subby. So if you worked for that company, you had to paint your truck in their colours.
Yeah.
And then they guaranteed an amount of work.
Yeah.
But you couldn't work for anybody else. That has pretty much disappeared except for a few companies. And you could operate, do your own business and be compliant. But I think, mate, in the very early days when you and I spoke, back in those days, if you were an owner-driver, you worked 100-plus hours a week to survive.
Yes.
You can't do that legally. You couldn't do it safely all the time then or healthily. That's changed for the good. But the compliance level is so high. The cost of buying a truck, $500,000 just for a prime mover. And the fact that we are under such scrutiny. Now, we want to be safe. I don't know a single truck driver that goes to work to risk his own life or that of anybody else. Now, we're human. We make mistakes. And, yes, we know that fatigue is a factor and people still get pushed. We've just discussed it, get held up, still be there in the morning. No, not going to happen. Those threats are made and you've got to work your way through that. But it is there's owner drivers that have said that there's been so much pressure on them, and there are still some terrific blokes out there, and they do a magnificent job and they do what they can. But the overseas pressure, and not just from drivers, from overseas companies that are coming into Australia, and you've got the gig economy, you've got Amazon and the like forcing pressures on the industry, and then you've got blokes that don't want to live in a truck for a week and be like I went through, on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere waiting for someone to come and fix it. Those pressures are there, and yet we need truck drivers, Luke. We cannot survive without them.
Yeah, I know. Wow. I'd like to ask a question. Any owner drivers that are listening to this podcast, can you write to us, lukeBoner@radioguy@gmail.com, or send us a voice message? Are you happy to be an owner driver? Is it worth it? Are you making money? Are you killing yourself to make a dollar? Would it be easier if you worked for a boss and it was his or her responsibility to have that truck running, and if it breaks down, you wait and they send someone to fix it? The pros and cons of being an owner driver. I want people to share their stories. Do you own your own prime mover? How much did it cost you? Was it $500,000? Is it a reliable truck? Or would you rather answer to somebody else and have a lot of that pressure and responsibility lifted from your shoulders? I'd love to hear the stories, Rod.
And Luke, it's about being your own boss. Like a lot of people go into small business, whether it's a cafe or a shop or whatever it might be. It certainly is. It's the same in our industry. And there's been that talk, particularly with the closures in the last few months, and there's been another one again a couple of weeks ago that was announced. And it's whether, because of that ease of getting in, so, if you go and win the lotto and they say, how do you make $1 million out of trucking? You start with 10. So if you go and buy a truck, and a lot of blokes will buy an older one, they'll do it up. Mate, there's a beautiful-looking truck that's won an award at one of the truck shows that the bloke bought secondhand, did it all up himself, and he's doing well out of it. Good luck to him. But you can buy an older one and do it up. But then if you go and buy one and you think, I'm just going to go and, cart freight and she'll be good and I'll do it cheaper than you, mate, then the industry gets dragged down. It's hard to get cost recovery. And yes, if you're successful, you've got a contract, you've got consistent work, you can do well. You can't work those hours you did before. You've got to be compliant now because we're watched to such a level of scrutiny. And you can do well out of it. But I'm pretty sure that most of the blokes out there will say it's getting harder and harder to survive. The cost of the gear, the cost of compliance, and the cost of maintenance. If you can do your own, if you're a mechanic, you've still got to be able to prove that you're qualified enough to do that work. So in the old days, you broke down, you'd pull up the side of the road, 3 blokes would pull up, they'd give you a hand. Mate, blokes replaced gearboxes and did bearings on the side of the road.
Wow.
But as a driver, we've discussed, if I blow a tyre, technically, unless I have been trained and qualified to change that tyre, I'm not supposed to. I might leave the nuts undone. I'm not allowed to adjust the brakes. So those things have all had an impact, and they're making it harder on owner drivers.
I've just quickly looked up some statistics from the National Retail Association and the Small Business Australia. And if you could look at being an owner driver as owning a small business, it's estimated around 60% of small businesses in Australia fail within the first 3 years of operation. Furthermore, up to 20% of new small businesses may fail in their first year. Approximately 60% of small businesses do not survive past the third year. And beyond 5 years, the failure rate continues, but it gets to 50%. So after 5 years, if you've worked out what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, the failure rate drops by 10% to 50%. Scary stuff, isn't it?
Mate, it is. And the fact that in the past you were still a driver like me, you're still hanging onto the wheel, but on top of that you have to run the business. You had to organise the loading, the repairs, all of that. Your wife generally became by default a part of the business because she'd be doing the invoicing at home and sending out the bills. And a lot of the time, the woman was unseen behind the desk at home, looking after the kids, bringing up the family. In that poem there that you put up last week, he says at one stage he comes home and the little girl says, "There's a man at the door, Mummy."
Yeah.
Now, that's a pretty extreme outcome. I've got another mate that I rang. He's on his way to a driver's funeral. Now, it's a dangerous industry. It's the most dangerous in Australia that I'm aware of. We've done our little bit. Now, if we taught car drivers how to share the road with trucks when they got their licence, we'd save some of their lives and some of ours. And yet in the media, it's trucks are overrepresented in crashes because there's less trucks than there are cars. But, of course, they don't compare apples with apples, Luke. A car does 20,000 a year. We do 200,000. And that simple level of exposure, the time you're on the road, and the fact that people do make silly mistakes, and we've quoted the figure, and it doesn't matter whether it's 71 or it's 86 or it's 92, the majority of fatal crashes between cars and trucks are the fault of the car driver simply because they didn't know any better, they made a mistake, or we didn't teach them to share the road with trucks.
Truckie Tuesday, Rod Hannafy is with us. Please give us your feedback. We thrive on it. Luke Boner, radio guy at gmail.com. You mentioned the poem that we got from a truckie last week, and you've told me that you enjoyed it. I just wonder, Kelsey, if we can play a little bit more.
They are our nation's truckies, worth their weight in gold. But look upon a truckie's face, you'll see how hard it's told. Treated like no hopers, criminals and scum. A cash cow to the government and a whipping boy for some. But I set for you this challenge, and to this I say good luck. Name for me 3 things that never see the back of a truck. Before you tell me air, blood, water, heart or brain, tell me what good are they with starving hunger pain. The food we eat, the cars we drive, our houses and our clothes, our infrastructure, everything, right down to the garden hose. They can't move themselves from our factories and ports. Upgrade the rail network, cost too much from all reports. So that leaves us with road transport and a task mammoth in size. But without our nation's truckies, even that would see demise. And our truckies keep on going, despite the personal cost. And the dangers that mean every day another one is lost. The death rate is ridiculous, an absolute disgrace. It should make the companies and government hide their face. Every day we say goodbye, a husband, father, son or mate, wife, mother, daughter on the job, all met their final fate. But that is only half of it. There's so much more to tell. Of broken lives and broken homes and truckies going through hell. The time that these guys spend away eats at the very core of what is waiting for them when they get back through their front door.
So, Rod, you've listened to the poem. Good
Yes,
stuff.
I have.
It should be put to music.
Yeah, well, yeah, that was the intention of contacting Matt.
Matt Cornell,
if
yeah.
you go back in our industry, I suppose that the most loved and popular truckie song was Slim Dusty, Lights on the Hill.
Yeah.
Now, even in that, it's about an accident where the truckie dies.
I know.
Because he's done the right thing. He's avoided the bus on the top of the hill. And that song, was very widely known. And I even wrote to Slim at one stage and sent him a suggestion. I got a letter back from Joy saying I was trying to put too much in one song.
Joy McCann.
Yep, we've got Travis Sinclair that we spoke of a little while ago. He rang into Truckie Tuesday once. And we've spoken of a song in America by Tony Justice called Brothers of the Highway. Now, that's a bloody beautiful video that goes with that, and it does have some of the passion. But as an industry, and even in our mate's poem at the end, he says, we're not recognised. We're treated badly. We don't ask to be put on a pedestal, but we just want a little bit of empathy and understanding because we want to get home safe every trip.
Rod, we got this voice message from Mal. Let's have a listen.
Great, Luke and Rodney. Just want to reply to Rodney's question about what we should be teaching car drivers. And I'm not who teach car drivers. My answer would be blind spots. And I've just got a quick story. I was driving up Parramatta Road on a Friday morning, peak hour. Little Flocon tri-drive with a quad axle, 56 tonne, something like that. driving up there and watching the little red car in front of me, and I just felt a bit of a bump. What's that? Looked around and nobody paying any attention to me, so I just kept going and get to Sunday and I got my allocation work for the next day, and boss rings me over and says, did you have an accident on Friday? I went, I got no accident. We told you. And he goes, I'll just bring it down and we'll have a look at the cameras, the 3 cameras in the truck. These little green cars come up the inside of me on the left-hand lane, started in a little hole from the car in front was, and I've just pushed it.
Rod, would you like to respond?
Mate, I'm sure that you might recall a few years ago there was a video of a truck driving down the road with a car sideways across the front of it. There's been a few like that. It was a bonneted truck, so a big bonneted truck, little car stuck out the front, the bloke's driving down the highway. There's been a couple like it, and it's simply because the car has tried to push into a gap that wasn't there. I've had it probably twice. A bloke overtook me over double lines and then pushed in between me and the caravan in front when someone was coming the other way. And people just do stupid shit to save 2 seconds. Mm-hmm. And in those instances where he's talking about it there, yes, we do have blind spots. They're very big in front of the truck to the left-hand side. Our mirrors are fixed. They're large. It's not like in the car you've got your rear vision mirror in the middle that you can look out the back window and you've got a little bit better sight. You could look out the side window in the car and you can see a car or a motorbike or something beside you. But when you're up in the truck, down to that left-hand side, virtually from the front wheel back, is a very serious blind spot. I've got what's called a daylight door. So it's got a bit of a drop-down section and a little hole in the door with a window and a mirror outside. But again, even between there is a blind spot in front of that mirror. So we shouldn't have people trying to push in front, because we've talked about the sticker on the back that says do not overtake turning vehicle. That's one of them. Others have, if you can't see the mirrors. Driver. Well, and that's it. That's even the point, Luke. It says if you can't see the mirror, but in a B double, you've got double articulation, you turn around a corner to the left, you can clearly see the mirror, but you can't see the driver, and the driver can't see you. So why can't we teach something as simple as that? If we taught car drivers to be aware of that when they get a license, and it's really got to be done in a video, Luke. We know now that kids rely on video. They play the games, and we've discussed, my views on that. I think we teach too many bad things. But to simply tell them is not enough. They have to see how it works. It have to be visual. You've got to implant it in their brain. And if we did that one simple thing when people got a license. Now, I've raised with you years ago, there was only one truck question in the 100 that you sit for your license. I jumped up and down. I wrote to every state in Australia. They increased it to 2. Now, you could say that was a success. I would tend to disagree. But something as simple as that, if it was taught to young people, it was shown in a video, we would save lives, we would save angst, we would save crashes, and yet I still cannot get the authorities to support that. And you really wonder why.
Maybe we need to get onto your senator from WA again and keep pushing.
I see Glenn did put out a video. One of the rest areas that got funding out of our heavy vehicle rest area steering committee is underway out at Roma. He put up a video saying that they're actually in there digging. I believe there are 2 others that have started. So to those that thought we were going to solve that problem overnight, again, get real, but we are trying.
Yeah, we really need to get Senator Stirl back on, don't you reckon?
Oh, absolutely, mate. We can do that. He does do trips. He's involved in WA with a couple of runs there, taking things up to people in isolated communities in the north. And, of course, he was a union organiser. He drove trucks back then. And to my understanding, he is the only MC licence holder in the Australian Parliament.
Yeah, no, we need to get him back on. Very good point. We'll write that down. Please leave us any feedback. It's a really important topic. When a young Australian goes for their driver's licence, their L's and then their P's, how many questions pertaining to road safety and trucks should be included in that exam? What are your thoughts? It's got to be more than 2, hasn't it? And well done with 2. You got a 100% increase.
Yes, one of those things where you think, well, that was good, but it just wasn't good enough. And
No.
it wasn't for lack of trying.
It wasn't. We've got a voice message from Nathan. Let's have a listen.
G'day guys, Nathan here again. Good to hear a good Truckie Tuesday. Keep up the good work, guys. Keep up the good work, Rod. Without you, mate, without the voice, who would fight for us? The riddle, I'm going to say the Nullarbor Plains. That's all I can think of. Anyway, guys, keep up the good work. Keep on trucking.
Oh, we didn't get to hear his horn because we want to hear your horns as well. What did he say, Nullarbor Plain?
Yes, and I was leaning that way.
Hang on,
So
hang on.
are we
Don't give it away.
do you have any more?
No,
No.
We're going to wait. This is called a hook to keep people. Just repeat the question.
I start where the flies outnumber the folk, past red-hot roads and eucalyptus smoke. I head south by east, then north once more. I pass where the Nullarbor meets the shore. I am not a shortcut, though some think I am. I'll chew up your diesel and jam up your plan. I look like the way, I've got signs and a name, but follow me far and you'll cruise and you'll curse just the same. What am I?
And we'll give you the answer a little bit later. Rod, once again, this perennial question is being asked. Should speed limits for trucks be increased? Let me go on. The speed limit for trucks is a complex issue with valid arguments on both sides. Raising or lowering the speed limit could have both positive and negative impacts on safety, travel times and operating costs. Many jurisdictions limit trucks to a maximum speed of 100 kilometres per hour or less, and there are valid reasons for this, including the increased risk of crashes and severity of those crashes at higher speeds. There are arguments for maybe on some roads under certain conditions raising that speed limit, and some people are even saying 130 kilometres an hour. Rod Hannafy, your thoughts?
Mate, I've seen that, and that article specifically, as I understand it, related to cars. It didn't mention trucks. Two things. I'm currently involved in a program trying to lift road train speed limits. Now, in Victoria, in Western Australia and Northern Territory, you are allowed to drive a Type 2 road train, so 3 trailers long, 100-tonne gross, 53.5 metres at 100 kilometres an hour. And I have done that in both those states, and the roads can support that in certain places. That talk of 130, I believe, is for cars, and yet you say every state in Australia limits trucks to 100. I have in the past considered asking that be raised to 110 only on 4-lane divided roads.
Yeah.
And the concern I actually have, Luke, we currently have most of our roads in Australia are 100, freeways 110. Then you've got all the other limits. Now, at one stage, the Newell Highway, a section of it from, I think it was from Narrabri, might have been further south, to south of Dubbo, was brought back from 110 to 100. And even the police were not consulted. There was somebody in New South Wales, or it was RTA then, decided that they were going to be a road safety crusader and they were going to cut the speed limit from 110 back to 100. Now, even the police argued at the time, 1, we weren't consulted, 2, you have a lot of trucks running the Newell Highway who can do 100 kilometres an hour on the flat sections, and then it meant that a car driver to overtake them, even on a long, flat, safe, empty bit of road, would be breaking the law to overtake the truck. Now, eventually, there was a furore, and I got stuck in one queue, Luke. I think there was about 8 cars, and we know that cars don't all do 100, and I was only looking yesterday, there was a video on some bloke sitting in his car saying, I'm doing 100 and these trucks are overtaking me. Now, they were overtaking him by about an extra 1 kilometre an hour, so it's not like they were zooming past and doing 110, but in that section of the Newell, the police said you have created a problem because you would get cars would sit behind a truck, and then someone who wouldn't sit behind a truck, about 5 or 6 back, would try and overtake 5 or 6 cars and a truck. And it created a bigger problem. Now, there is a term called traffic friction, and that means if you have different vehicles travelling at different speeds, then, of course, as one catches the other, unless it's a 4-lane divided road, which is where I said it should be maybe on the Hume, unless it's that, then someone is going to want to overtake the other. Now, in the past, we had different speed limits for caravans too, Luke.
Oh,
they
really?
used to be limited. Yeah, now that changed. Now it's as per manufacturers. So you can still go and buy your BMW tow car and put a van on it, but the manufacturer's recommended towing speed for a certain weight may be 90 kilometres an hour. Not everybody knows that, nor do they understand it. But look, if they increase the car speed to 30, the one concern I have is that would increase that traffic friction. I'd certainly like to see road trains able to do 100 because most blokes do it anyway and they're safe and capable of doing it. And I suppose the one thing you go back to, Luke, there's a thing put out by NTI, National Transport Insurance. Every 2 years they do a big study of truck crashes and trends and those sorts of things. One of the things they found in one of the first ones was that a majority of accidents occurred in the first leg out of the week. Yeah. So, you weren't quite prepared or you didn't have enough sleep before you went, something went wrong. But one of the other factors that they've shown up, fatigue is certainly critical. But outside of that, driving to the conditions is one of the major crash factors. Now, that means that if you are coming into a corner and you're at full noise and the road cambers off, well, you can see that. You can see the road. You know that you're in a high vehicle. You know that you can't just go around every corner flat. If it's raining, you know the road is slippery. It's a bit wet. You backed off a little bit. It's about when you are in traffic, you allow that bit of room, which, as we've discussed, every car driver wants to fill and take away where we leave the braking distance. But if everybody drove to the conditions, and it's not just about the vehicle or the road, it's your own condition too, isn't it, Luke?
It is. But let's have a quick look at some of the arguments for potentially raising truck speed limits. You would have reduced travel times. Now, if you had reduced travel times, therefore that kind of comes under the umbrella of improved efficiency, could that reduce the cost of transporting goods and then possibly be passed on to the consumer? Would our goods be a bit cheaper if they were transported faster and more efficiently?
I'd nearly go the other way. The one thing I'd say, and we've argued in the past, is when back in the day we had 90 kilometre an hour speed limits for trucks, that increased your time on the road and your level of fatigue. Now, again, I've got young sons. A couple of them have got very nice cars, and they say sitting at 100 on the highway is boring and you fall asleep. And the argument, we go back to those days of owner-drivers. Back in the days when we did have some quick trucks, you had to be on the ball. You weren't just sitting there like you're driving a lounge chair down the road. You were concentrating, because if you didn't, you come unstuck really quick. So there's arguments on both sides, as you say. I'm looking to reduce traffic friction. I don't think the 130 is ever going to work for trucks. In America, they were about to introduce a speed limiting law. The last video that I saw means that got knocked on the head, and it depends on what state you're in over there. Some allow 65, some allow 70. Some states even allow 75 mile an hour, and you'd be getting, 120-something kilometres an hour, of course, as we do here. And over there, it does tend to work. They do have crashes, there's no doubt, but they also use the same argument I did 5 minutes ago, Luke, and part of it is we don't teach car drivers to share the road with us.
Yeah, and I think the main argument for maintaining the speeds is safety. And if you have a crash at a lower speed, the results are going to be a bit different, aren't they? It is an interesting one. It really is. I'd like your feedback, folks. Should speed limits for trucks be raised to maybe 110 on certain roads? Or do you think maintaining it where it is where it should stay? I'd love to hear.
And can we bring the 90K for road trains up so that we're not having to overtake other road trains in bigger vehicles? That's the other one.
Right. It's funny you should mention about being a little uncomfortable and that adding to concentration. When I took a group of listeners to India a few years ago, 10 years ago, most of our travel, Rob, was on buses, coaches. Yep. And the group I took, we took up three large coaches. They were pretty flash. They were, they were good quality, but the driver has a sidekick, and the sidekick gets out on highways and has to pay the very dodgy tolls that just pop up The next thing,
yes.
next thing you know, there's a police car with lights flashing. You've got to pull over and hand over cash. It's not. It's not actually not on a registered toll. It just happens, and his sidekick jumps out and does all that and helps him.
Yep.
But the driver and his sidekick are in a completely separate compartment, completely glassed off from the passengers. Yep. And this is what our tour guide told us. And if there's anyone out there in bona fide land that can verify this, if you've ever been in the trucking industry in India, we were told that the drivers in their fully encased little box do not have air conditioning. The reason, the policy was that they wanted the driver to feel uncomfortable. And we were told as a group that since they introduced that, the accident tolls went down, that the drivers were uncomfortable and forced to concentrate a little harder. I don't know if that holds any water with you, Rod, but that's what we were told.
And Luke, you've only got to talk to a driver that's been out there for a long time. When it gets cold and you turn the heater up and you get too comfortable, yes, that can, if you're not aware, make you drowsier. Certainly if you're sitting there freezing and shivering, it's not the best either. You've got to find that perfect medium. And, of course, the other side, air conditioning when it's hot, But I've seen some drivers of late, Luke, wearing headphones. Now, some companies have outlawed it.
Yeah.
I believe it is dangerous because you can't hear what's going on around you. You can't hear a siren coming up behind you for an ambulance or someone blowing the horn that you're about to run over. And I can't see why blokes, have to have a set of headphones on. You can't have them for your phone. You might have one ear covered. But simply wearing headphones in a truck to me is stupid. Whether you want your crystal clear stereo to be nice, that's one thing. But if you can't hear what's going on around you, I think that there's a detriment that way. And we can't teach common sense, Luke. We've discussed it. We can't outlaw stupidity. All we can do is try and say, if you give this some thought, and let's go back to Charles Tarbert, his ideas, he's got really good business sense. He's been successful. And if you can't learn, or what's the other one, Luke? The day you stop learning is the day you die. And if you don't want to learn, well, then you're not going to make it as anything, are you?
That's right. Interesting, in New South Wales, being deaf does not automatically disqualify you from getting a driver's license. Now, this is not commercial driving. I'm not sure about commercial driving, but it is not a general prohibition for a private vehicle operation being deaf.
Yes, there is a level for truckies that we must meet, and I had my medical last week, mate. They tested my hearing there. Obviously, sight, everything else they do, that's a part of it. If you're virtually putting those headphones on, you're making yourself deaf in one way to what's on around you, not anything else. And even many years ago, mate, there was a driver who only had one eye. He went through a very, very rigorous process to prove that he was capable. And it's about skill level. It's about your ability to deal with those factors, drive to the conditions. And we know that some people shouldn't be parents and some probably shouldn't be drivers, Luke, but we can't fix that either.
Can't fix that either. Just moving on to some news. The National Road Transport Association, NatRoads, calling on operators to highlight the issues they're having in recruiting and retaining truck drivers. Operators are now being urged to have their say on the truck driver crisis. Rod?
It's been there for a long time. It's getting worse. We started off that way, Luke, as to why would you go and do the job, but somebody has to. In the past, it was demanding, but you've got a passion for it. Like our mate did with the poem. He's obviously done it. He's got a passion for it. It gets in your blood. And it has an enormous impact on our lives that's not recognised. How we do it better. And some of the companies have gone to doing changeovers. So if you run up and down the Hume, a bloke who leaves Sydney, he will drive to Tarcutta, he'll do a changeover and go back home. He's in his own bed that night. He doesn't have to sleep in the truck. And it's efficient that way, but you must have a sufficient volume of freight to be able to do that. For those blokes like me that live in the truck, you can't really solve that problem because we are a very decentralised country. America's got a lot more people and it's got, similar space, but it's got a lot more towns in between. You've got a small gap between one town and another, except in some certain places. But any route in Australia, like Sydney to Melbourne to Brisbane, you start running Perth and Darwin, you can't do those in a couple of days and the freight's still got to move. And we've had people ring in and say to you, it should all go on rail. And, mate, we had 27 rail gauges in Australia at one time. Had they done that properly, and they have a really good rail network in America, but they still need trucks. They still need trucks to put it on the train and to take it off the train. And here we are the most efficient. So we've got to find a way to make sure that blokes get paid sufficiently to do the job, that we have the facilities. And I've got to say, Luke, I only had a discussion with a bloke in the office yesterday. How the hell are we supposed to stay fit and healthy when you can't get good food on the road with a few exceptions? We can't access a supermarket to buy stuff, to buy healthy food because we're in a B-double. And that side of it, I think outside of the fact that you and I have been complaining about a lack of rest areas and we've got more trucks and less rest areas, the way that roadhouses are closing earlier and not being available and not having decent food in so many places. And yes, COVID was probably the biggest single factor that affected them because there was no traffic on the road, only us, and many of them didn't cope. I don't know where we go there to keep us going and to keep the country moving, mate.
One last thing, those upgrades we were talking about on the Bruce Highway, they've begun. It's a $9 billion program. It's the Bruce Highway Safety Package. So the work's begun, Rod.
Mate, I haven't been up there for a couple of weeks because I've had that time off. They had been doing a lot of work up there. It's not like they'd done nothing, but it did have a terrible crash rate. People did die. It's good that they've now got that money in the committee, and I've got access to one of the gentlemen on the committee. I've spoken to them about rest areas. We're hoping to have input into that, and it's good to see. But, Luke, in the last week, back on the road for the first time, potholes. Even my son saying last night he hit a pothole somewhere the other day and he's now got a cracked rim on his car. And whilst they're our roads, they're our asset, they belong to the Australian people. But if we don't maintain them, then you're going to have people turning around and saying, well, we should all drive at 60 kilometres an hour across the whole of the world because there might be one pothole, 57 kilometres down the road that you might hit and have an accident. And people talk about lower speed limits in certain places, and I've got no problem with school zones. I've got no problem with roadworks when there are roadworks there. But these people who turn around and say that dropping the speed limit fixes everything obviously don't live in trucks and they don't have to travel the distances that we do. So we've got to have a say to get a fair outcome for all.
Yeah. We went on a little road trip recently and our GPS, very handy. It says pothole ahead and it tells you 500 metres. It counts down. And then as you go past it, it says, it asks you, still there or gone? And you push the screen. But that relies on people's input. So
it does. Yep.
Yeah.
And I looked into that.
Yeah.
You spoke of it. I looked into that and I'm going to contact them and find out whether they actually follow that up, because it's one thing to know it's there. It's another to report it and get it fixed. So I'm going to chase them up to see if they do that as well.
Yeah, well, where we went, there were potholes everywhere and they were reported and we kept an eye out and it was really handy.
Yes.
But it does rely on other users of this particular GPS. I'll tell you what it is. It's Waze, W-A-Z-E.
Yes.
Waze users need to contribute to it. So that's how it works.
They do. And let's hope that they actually pass it on. And if they don't, I'm going to ask them why not.
Yeah, that's a really good question. We'll do that next time. Okay, Rocket Rod's roadside riddle. Now, do you remember the question?
It was a very detailed, generated question, and I had a thought. We've had one bloke there make a comment. Are you going to do a drum roll, or are you going to say, and the winner is?
No, hang on. Inserting drum roll now. And thank you, Kelsey. That was, by the way, Kelsey, just keep rolling. Have you heard Rod's sound effects? He's got a unbelievable. Rod, what were some of your sound effects that we used to do? What was the truck noise as you're going down the hill?
The Jake brake.
That's
down through the gears.
Down through the gears. That's very good, Rod. Anyway, so we're going to drum roll again. Thank you, Kelsey. And the answer is?
Nullarbor.
Nullarbor.
It was, yes. It is a very long straight road, of course, the 90-mile straight across there, longest straight road in Australia, 146.6 kilometres. But I think you asked at one stage, mate, where was the longest road in the world? In Saudi Arabia, isn't it? 240 kilometres?
I don't know, I can't remember now.
Oh, there you go, but you did. So
Okay.
very well done.
Right, now we need another riddle for next week. Rocket Rods.
We do.
Rocket Rods, can you make it a bit simple? Just ask it one bloody question, not 6. Rocket Rods roadside riddle for this week is?
What is the name of Route 39?
What is the name?
No, the highway name of Route 39,
Route 39.
the new highway.
Okay, that's a lot easier. Please send us your feedback. LukeBonerRadioGuy@gmail.com. Send us your voice messages. You've heard how it's done. It's very, very simple. And Rocket Rod, I hope you have a better week than you had last week. I hope you actually get out there and earn some wages.
Yes, me too, mate. Me too. Safe travelling to all, and we'll do it again next week.
Okay, now listen, before you go, a quick reminder, winter doesn't have to walk all over you. Get on the front foot. Nature Bees Power Pollen. It is your winter defense kit. More energy, immune support, nutrients, antioxidants, and it's all in one beautiful little golden capsule. And you don't need to swallow the capsules whole either. I mean, you can just sprinkle it on your breakfast, on your porridge, in your smoothies, in your juice. Power Pollen's sweet, nutty taste is both a flavour and an energy boost. And it's proof that it's just Mother Nature. You can grab a 6-month supply for $160, and they're throwing in an extra month and 2 bars of their famous pollen and honey soap for free. Comes with a money-back guarantee, otherwise I wouldn't endorse it, and I've been taking it since the year 2000. Click the link in the description and order yours today and say goodbye to winter blues. Nature Bee, helping you stay on top of winter and not under it. And a big thanks to Nature Bee for powering up another bona fide episode. So let's wrap it up with one last bit of wisdom, rodent related, of course. Don't lose sleep over things that scurry. Plug in Pestrol's rodent-free Max and let it do the worrying. It's $139, comes with a 100-day money-back guarantee and a 2-year warranty. They're good odds. Buy the Pestrol Rodent-Free Max today and also receive the in-car rodent repeller absolutely free. Valued at $50, free of charge. It's a limited time offer. And you have to use the code BONA, B-O-N-A. Links are in the description.